Hi, everyone. I am going to be presenting my agency presentation on my field placement for this semester, Jefferson County Schools, the CARES program. So this is my first time ever doing this on Zoom. So bear with me. So this semester, I have had the pleasure of being placed in Jefferson County Schools with the CARES program. The CARES program is basically just, sorry, I'm trying to figure out. The CARES program is basically just the county social work program that works with the schools. So if you'd like a little bit more information about the CARES program, it is based out of the Jefferson County Schools Board of Education. The contact for them is Dr. Jeffrey Moore, who is the Mental Health Services Director. His phone number and email are listed on this slide. And if you'd like any more information, you're welcome to look on their website, though I will say their website is a little slim when it comes to information. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear the rain outside. Apparently, it just decided to downpour while I was doing this. Okay, so the CARES program works a lot like most school social work programs. However, it's a pretty large county. So basically, what the CARES program does is they exist to aid the school in the school's mission. So the school's mission is to ensure that students are academically successful. But the CARES program was put in place because school administrators realize that students can't be academically successful when their basic needs aren't being met and when they have other coexisting situations. So the CARES program exists to identify and eliminate barriers to student success. And they do that by providing resources both internally and externally. They do that by providing support. They do that by being in pretty constant communication with parents and guardians and community stakeholders. The CARES team provides both direct and indirect services. So they will often meet with students individually or in groups in school while also connecting them either to outside therapy or to outside resources that they would not otherwise know about. So it's a lot of case management and a lot of just getting students what they need so that they can be successful in school and out of school. So basically, the CARES program works like this. There are 5 master's level social workers, also called CARES specialists, who work under Dr. Moore. Mr. Boone, Miss Jett, Miss Pleasant, Miss McKinney, my supervisor, and Mr. Underwood. Each social worker is assigned to a certain set of schools. This is generally 7 to 10 schools each. As I said, this is a rather large county, so each social worker has a good clump of schools. Because it's virtually impossible for a singular social worker to meet all the needs in 7 to 10 schools, they also have 2 case managers underneath them who are contracted out through Impact Family Counseling. And this is a role that a bachelor level social worker could do. You can also do if you have basically any bachelor's degree in a humanities. So, and then of course they train you and all that. So if you're interested, you should check them out. Very cool. And then also the social workers often have 1 to 2 interns. So for example, my supervisor has me, a bachelor's level intern, and then they also have she also has another intern who's a master's level UAB student. So the CARES social workers typically see students who are referred to them by school administrators or school counselors, and they're often referred to them either for mental health issues, family life difficulties, behavioral problems, or other related hardships. I think about, at least in our caseload, about 90% of the students that we see have some sort of DHR involvement. So these are kids who are going through a lot and just need a little extra support, or some of them a lot of extra support. So this semester, I'm working with Miss McKinney. She's a a licensed master social worker, and her respective zone are Gardendale and Clay Chalkville. So I'm working in both of those places. So what does it look like? What does my internship look like? Well, my first note is that every zone is different. So I'm very blessed because Miss McKinney's zone is a lot of direct practice with students. I'm often either facilitating therapeutic groups with elementary schoolers when we're working on socio-emotional skills, or I'm in individual meetings with middle schoolers where we're talking through issues that are happening and healthy coping mechanisms. And often I'm just a safe place to talk, or I'm doing classroom counseling in elementary schools. So we do a lot of direct practice with students. However, there are some zones that focus more on the case management side of it, where they're connecting families to resources. It kind of just depends on where you're placed. I have absolutely loved being with Miss McKinney because, like I said, I have had a lot of direct practice with students, and that's really what I love to do. Um, but both types of internships and both types of work is very needed. And I think I would be happy doing the other as well. I'm just a little glad that I got Miss McKinney because I have gotten to meet and work with so many students and so many school counselors, and it's just been a really awesome experience. Okay, so here's kind of where I'm going to share one of my personal experiences, and I'll explain why I'm sharing it. So recently we had a student come in who's a new student, and he's coming in because he's just transferred to this school. He is just now getting done with DHR involvement because an aunt and an uncle is adopting him. And the reason he was in DHR is because, unfortunately, he and his sister witnessed his dad murdering their mother. And so this child has had to move states, move schools, has had to grieve the loss of his mom, has had to grieve the loss of his dad, who he's named after. So there's just a lot going on in this situation. And while not all of our cases are quite that intense, this is kind of the sort of case that we're seeing, especially in schools like Clay Chalkville. My Gardendale kids are mostly, most of them do have family situations. They are involved in DHR, but a lot of them are more on the spectrum, like the autism spectrum. So we're working a lot of like, how do we process emotions healthily? How do we cope with hard things? And how do we, make friends? But at Clay Chalkville, we're dealing with a lot of really hard issues. And it has been really sweet to get to be there and get to be an adult who's in these kids' corners and who is willing to listen to them and sit down with them and give them time and love, because that's what they need. But it is also really hard. So my note, if you're considering school social work, that's amazing. It's something I'm considering, and it has honestly been a wonderful experience. It's very fulfilling. But it's also important to note that any practice where you are working with children and teenagers is a different kind of draining. Okay. The things these kids are struggling with are real, and they are hard, and they are intense. Okay. And most of these kids have never had an adult who is in their corner willing to fight for them. And that's really hard. And it's really sad. And they need adults who are on their side, who believe in them, and are willing to do what they can, at least, to ease their burdens. If you choose to pursue school social work, which I do recommend, it's a wonderful placement if you think that you are cut out for it, you're going to find a very fulfilling and rewarding position, but it's also going to be hard. It's also going to be dealing with a lot of things, especially in these school zones where you're seeing a lot of gang violence, you're seeing a lot of domestic violence issues. You're going to be dealing with really hard situations, and you're not always going to have the perfect solution. In fact, most of the time you won't, and your job will be a lot of sitting and waiting and watching and listening. And I promise that it makes a difference, but it's also very hard. So, that little disclaimer aside, what excites me every day? Genuinely, I love who I'm working with. My supervisor, Miss McKinney, is incredibly kind, incredibly understanding, and she's very wise. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I've only been working with her for 5 weeks. I'm also blessed because, thankfully, in the school zones that we're in, the school counselors and the staff that we interact with all genuinely love their students, and they love what they do. And that's kind of rare. I will say that I have run into a lot of teachers who are not quite as loving and as kind as they could be. But at least the counselors and the administrators, they want their students to succeed. They're fighting for their students and they don't block CARE's involvement, which is huge. I also just love the students. Okay. Even on the days when the stories are really hard and I'm kind of stuck and I don't feel like I can do much except listen, the students are genuinely the brightest part of my day. They're so funny, especially the middle schoolers. And they're also very kind, especially considering what they've gone through. So I love working with these kids. What's the biggest challenge? Well, thus far, the biggest challenge has honestly kind of been listening to these stories, right? I don't know that I'm quite on the level of having secondary trauma, but I do know that secondary trauma is a real thing. And my energy level difference between Monday afternoon and Thursday afternoon are very different. I can feel myself becoming more drained. And that makes sense. This job is emotionally draining. However, I've really had to work on self care. That has taken on a whole new importance this semester. I've realized that I really need time alone and I need to be daily doing things that are healthy to help me avoid being overwhelmed. I also have just been leaning on my support system, including my faith, as much as I possibly can while still maintaining confidentiality. It's been really essential that I am honest with the people who love me and I kind of explain, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm facing, and I appreciate the support and the love that you can give me. And thankfully, I'm very blessed with a good support system. Overall, I've loved this placement so far. Yes, there are good days and bad days, but I have learned so much and I'm so blessed to be where I'm at. All right. How do I stop the recording? There we go.